I'm Bill from SUPBoardGuide.com, and today I'm going to be talking about how to improve your paddling technique, which is something that every single paddler should be looking at doing. If you improve your technique, it means you're going to paddle easier, you're going to paddle straighter, faster if you want to, with less effort and less chance of injuring yourself as well. And it doesn't matter how good you are, you can always improve your paddle technique. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about why, and then I'm going to finish off by giving you one simple exercise that I guarantee will improve your paddle technique, and it quite probably also will change the whole way you think about stand-up paddling technique. Your paddling isn't going to get better of its own accord. That just doesn't happen. There's no mechanism whereby if we just do something lots, we automatically get better. Your body becomes its function for sure, but all that actually really is going to mean in practice is that your muscles kind of adapt to your paddling, whatever the technique is you're doing, not going to get you better. There's no mechanism in sport, or indeed anything. I mean, if you play the same piece on the piano 100 times a day, you're not going to turn into Rachmaninoff. You don't get better naturally. You have to work on this. And in most other sports, people take that for granted. You look at top golfers, top tennis players, top pretty much any type of athletes. They practice the basics over and over again. They break it down, they do drills to get better. And we need to do that too. One really important thing we've got to understand also in paddleboarding, and this is huge, and this does differ from many other sports, is that there is no one right way to paddle. We've got a whole bunch of different muscle groups in our bodies. They can all play a part in paddling. And so the ideal stroke for you, the most efficient stroke for you, is going to depend on your body shape. It's going to depend on your strengths, on your weaknesses. If you've got big, strong legs and glutes, then let's make you a leg-based stroke. If you've got a skinny little ass like I have, you might as well have an upper body stroke. Use your strengths. Your age, your injuries you've had, you've got to work around. I mean, for a lot of people, the ultimate paddle stroke for them is just so it doesn't hurt. Fair enough. We all have a different stroke. And this is really important to understand. Over the last 15 years, I have taught literally thousands of people to improve their paddle stroke. I'm not just talking about beginners, I'm talking about people who've stuck at it and worked on getting better at paddling. And every single one of them, we end up with a different stroke to suit them and to suit the way their body works. So that's a really important point to take away, okay? And that leads directly into the second really important point I need to make. There's a whole bunch of really cool stuff on the internet already, how to paddle. Lots and lots of really good paddlers explaining paddling. But actually, the reality is that probably 99.9% of that may well not be relevant to you. I'm not saying they're wrong, because clearly it works for them, but they've got a different body composition to you, almost certainly. Almost invariably, what you're looking at is a highly tuned athlete who has put thousands of hours into their paddling, and their bodies have become built, they've become conditioned to paddle that way. And what they're demonstrating to you is a highly tuned power stroke. It's like, they're a big, chunky V8 engine using lots of petrol, but developing lots of power. If you try to paddle like that, you're just going to burn out, or quite possibly you're going to injure yourself, okay? So I'm hereby kind of liberating you from the tyranny of YouTube, okay? You don't need to worry about what other people say, okay? What I really don't like is when people say, oh, I need to do this because someone has said it, and they're trying to build something into their substroke that they've seen on YouTube. It doesn't work like that. The substroke is a system, okay? Really important to understand this. It's a whole chain of events happening in 3 dimensions and time, okay? You make one little change, you change everything. So just because you've seen online that someone says, put your paddle in further forward or whatever, that's actually gonna change everything. You can't make isolated changes without really understanding what's going on. The other thing you really mustn't ever take away from those YouTube videos is, if you're not doing it like this, you are doing it wrong. I said, nah, that is not the case. Those top athletes, they know how to paddle for sure, but their paddling might not be appropriate for you. The other thing that's really important to understand about paddling is you can't process it. Okay, you can't You can't think to yourself, okay, what I'm going to do with my stroke is I'm going to move the paddle forward at a 60-degree angle, and I'm going to plunge it into the water like this, and I'm going to exert 10 pounds of pressure on the top. The whole paddle stroke is over and done with in not much more than a second. Bang, stroke done, okay? So you cannot mentally process what you're doing out there on the water. The only way you can improve your paddle technique is by working at little details of it and building up muscle memory. And most importantly also, building up a mental model of what is going on. This is so important. The reality is that probably 90% of paddlers actually don't know what it is they're trying to do. It'd be kind of like, I don't know, try to learn a foreign language by just memorizing little phrases, learning how to pronounce them perfectly, but not knowing what they mean. You know, you can speak Serbo-Croat brilliantly, but actually you've no idea what you're saying. And the reality is that so many people go out there and try to paddle without fully understanding what's going on. Because that's kind of one of the cool things about our sport. It is not intuitive. What you feel like is happening isn't necessarily happening, okay? And that I want to talk a little bit more about now, because you've really got to understand a couple of things before we can go any further. Here we have a paddle blade, okay? Now, there's all sorts of technical names to the various phases of paddling, but let's just make it real simple, okay? Your paddle blade is either working for you or it's not, okay? Binary, it's working or it's not. Now, obviously, if the blade is out of the water, then it's not working for you. Yeah, that's pretty straightforward. But when it's in the water, what's going on? And this is where, again, it just gets so brilliantly kind of non-intuitive. It feels like when you pull the paddle back through the water, that's what it feels like. That's what people say. I'm pulling the paddle back through the water, but you're not. Actually, that is really not what is happening. Your blade, when it goes into the water, can do one of two things. It can either slip, so we can just slide it through the water like a knife going through cake or something, or it can grip. You put that paddle blade into the water and it grips. It doesn't move. You're not compressing water, because water is, for all intents and purposes, incompressible for the kind of pressures and dynamics we're working in, okay? And you're most certainly not displacing your entire lake or the Pacific Ocean back 6 feet. Don't flatter yourself, all right? The water is not moving. What happens is you put that blade in, it stays there, and then you can apply power to the paddle shaft to bring the board up to the blade. A really good analogy for understanding SUP paddling is tires, okay? Your paddle blade is not the engine, it's the tires on your bike, okay? You are the engine on your bike. You apply power to the wheel, and if your tire doesn't grip, the wheel just spins. It doesn't grip, okay? That's like that, okay? But when your tire grips, then you can apply power to go forward, okay? So think of the paddle blade as the tire on your bike. You're the engine applying power to it. We need to get it to grip, and now we can apply power to go forward. You will hear that referred to as the catch in paddleboarding, but just think of it as gripping. The paddle is either slipping or it's gripping. So there are lots of different ways to paddle, as I've said, and there are many different power techniques being used by every paddler around the world, but they all have one thing in common, and that's what I'm going to be focusing on now, is they have a good, clean catch. They make the paddle start gripping nice and early, and then the longer that paddle can be gripping, the more time you have to apply power to move the board forward, okay? So what we're wanting to do when we paddle is get that paddle in nice and far forward and gripping properly. The sooner we can get it to grip, the better. If you put the paddle in at an angle and slice it back until then it doesn't start gripping to here, bad stroke. So whatever style of paddling you've got, we have this one commonality, and that's what I want to focus on. The drills I do with all my athletes, we just spend our time working on getting that good, clean catch. We want to get the paddle in nice and far forward, and we want it to start gripping instantly, okay? And we can do this. We have this luxury, unlike pretty much any other type of sport where you're doing a rhythmic, repetitive motion over and over and over again. We can unchain our paddle stroke. We can just work on one stroke at a time. Kayakers, canoeists, they can't do this because the start of one stroke is the end of the other. But we can take our paddle and we can just do one stroke. Okay, this is brilliant. So what I'm now going to show you is a fantastic exercise that you should do every time you go paddling. Do it at the start because it's a really good warm-up. It is also a very kind of centering exercise. It's like a kind of a breathing exercise, almost meditative, and it's actually very, very good for activating the parasympathetic nervous system. It kind of gets you into the zone, okay? But above all, it's just a perfect technique for working on getting a really good catch. And it's real simple. Basically, we just take one stroke at a time. So get a couple of strokes just to get a bit of movement, because the board needs to be moving to do this. And then just take one stroke, and all you're thinking about is getting that perfect catch. Okay. I'm just getting that lovely catch. The paddle goes into the water, the board moves forward to it, and then at the end of the stroke, I take the paddle out of the water, and I keep it back here, okay? Pull myself up to my full height, breathe in, pause for a second, and then take your next stroke. And all you're focusing on is getting that catch clean. There's a fundamental rule in paddleboarding that the paddle blade always needs to be fully in the water, okay? There is no time when that blade shouldn't be fully in the water, other than when you're putting the paddle in or taking it out. But what we're aiming to do is to get that paddle blade fully immersed, okay? And to get a clean catch, what we want to do is we want that paddle blade to go in like, I've seen a flounder there, and this is a spear, and I'm going to spear that flounder, okay? The paddle blade is going down. The action is driving the paddle blade down into the water. Okay. The paddle blade should go in like a knife going into butter. Just, you shouldn't hear anything. Okay, there should be no splash. That's a good catch. The massive mistake that 90% of paddlers make is they bring the paddle forward because they know they need to do that, but then, I'll turn sideways to demonstrate this, it'll be a bit easier. They bring the paddle blade forward, but then they do either what's called an air catch, where the paddle kind of hovers up above the water, and they bring it back, and they don't actually engage until maybe back here, or even worse, back here. Or they just do what I refer to as a sliding catch, where they bring the paddle forward, but then as they put it to the water, they start to crank on it before it's fully in, and it doesn't actually fully engage to maybe back here. But both those things, the air catch and the sliding catch, are both robbing you of really good power. They're stopping the paddle working properly because it is not working properly until it is fully caught, okay? So we want that paddle blade to come forward and to drop down into the water with that almost like a bit of forward motion, so that the paddle goes in and instantly starts to catch. Okay, so when we go out there to do this exercise, pull up to full height, bring the paddle forward and get that perfect catch. Okay, and then pull up, breathe in, take it again. You've got a second there, or a couple of seconds between each one, to actually think about what you're doing and think about whether that was a good catch. And here's the thing, what you'll find when you go out and try this is it's actually surprisingly difficult, and you might only get a couple of really good strokes where actually you do it for 10 minutes and you come back and you think, well, yeah, there are maybe 4 or 5 there that were really good, and you know when you've got a good one. And that might seem weird. I mean, what are you saying, that when I go paddling I'm only occasionally doing a good stroke? But that is the truth. And again, you know, if you look at other sports, this isn't so weird after all. You go out and play a round of golf, you might actually, unless you know you're a pro, you might actually only get a couple of strokes, a couple of drives where you make that perfect connection with the ball. There's no slice, it just flies straight and true, and you just think, damn, that was a good stroke. Okay. And yeah, there might only be a few like that. Or same in tennis, you just get that perfect connection with the ball, okay, and you know you've hit a good one. And it is actually like that with SUP. So whether you're just getting into intermediate paddling or whether you're an experienced racer, if you're not actually going out and doing this exercise to keep refreshing your mental model and your muscle memory as to what a perfect catch feels like, how can you expect to do it under pressure, especially in a race environment? You know, when you're thinking about other things, if you haven't programmed your body to get that perfect stroke, and you won't get it every time, but by doing this exercise, you can raise your game and you can get better at it, okay? So, what we're listening for, listening, don't go out there with earbuds, go and listen to your stroke. A good stroke should be absolutely silent. There should be no splash on the entry, there should be no splash on the exit. Any splash means you're not quite getting it right. You're looking for that paddle just going in perfectly vertical. And it might feel like it is, but sometimes you look at the slow-mo video afterwards and you see, no, there's still a bit of slide in that. Get that perfect catch. Okay, so this is a great exercise to do. Just a few minutes, 5 minutes at the beginning of each session. Do it at the end of the session as well, because then that means that you leave the water with this kind of good mental model. Your muscle memory is reminding you exactly what perfect paddling should feel like. Big mistake an awful lot of racers or more experienced paddlers make is they come off the water, they're exhausted, their stroke has deteriorated so much over the course of the session, and so they go away and they've left their muscle memory with this kind of a rubbish stroke that they're doing for that last 100 meters of the race or whatever. Always really good to reset, get back to getting that perfect catch. And there's another thing about this that is really, really important to understand. And again, this is something you're probably not going to have heard before, but it's such an important thing. The vast majority of paddlers, probably, again, 90% of the people I've worked with, if not more, their mental model of the paddle stroke is that it starts at the front. Okay. Now, if you Google the phases of the paddle stroke, almost invariably it starts with the entry or the catch. And it'll be something like entry, catch, power, release, return. But that isn't a great way of thinking about kind of anything like this. Our paddle stroke starts at the back. I mean, imagine if you went into a boxing gym and you saw somebody starting their punch just an inch from the punch bag and punching like that. That would be weird. You wouldn't do that. When you throw a stone, you start from the back. And likewise with the paddle stroke, it starts back here. This first part of the stroke is the reach, bringing the paddle forward, and you are committing. Your weight is coming forward, your focus is coming forward. If you like a bit of twist in your stroke, you're coiling up for that stroke. You are pouncing on that perfect catch, and the commitment starts back there. I use that word pounce deliberately. I got that from Travis Grant, legendary Australian paddleboarder and a real kind of technician of the sport. And I was talking with him about this, and he refers to it as the pounce. So that's the way he thinks of it. He is pouncing on that stroke. And I love that word, it's exactly right. You hear other pros will talk about falling onto the stroke, and that's another good one. That's basically what we're aiming to do here. If you think of the stroke from starting from back here, it changes your whole mental model of what the stroke is all about. That is your stroke. Okay. It starts from back here and it finishes back here. This next bit, bringing the paddle forward, has nothing to do with the previous stroke. There's nothing you can do with the way you bring the paddle forward that's going to influence the stroke you've already done. The stroke starts here. So there you have it. If you want to improve your paddling, work on your catch. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you want to do tail pivot turns and stuff like that, they're fun. They're not going to make you a better paddler. Working on your catch will make you a better paddler, and it will make you a better paddler whether you're beginner, intermediate, advanced, expert, top racer. You can still improve your catch. And do it by unchaining your stroke and just working on getting that perfect catch to get that mental model. And this will also refocus your brain on the fact that the stroke starts from back here. Both these things will make you a better paddler. You will paddle more efficiently, smoothly, less effort. You'll go faster if you want to. You can go longer. They really, really work. So look, I hope you found that useful. If you like what we've got to say here, please follow our YouTube channel and let us know how you get on. Please put your comments in below. We'd love to hear from you. But like I said, it's not going to happen instantly. You're going to have to work at this. And also just do remember those other two things. There is no one right way to paddle. And just because some guru says something on YouTube doesn't necessarily mean it's right for you. Okay, happy paddling.